What a wonderful day, wonderful moment. We welcome you to the Oneness Apostolic Bible College, and my name's Ankweto Mulenga. I'm the lecturer who is going to take you through the Bible introduction. Bible introduction is the first topic of the 10 topics which are under the diploma courses. So Bible introduction is the first topic of the 10, and the reason is no one will ever understand the Bible if they don't know what the Bible introduction is. We are going into the topic, and welcome to the Oneness Apostolic Bible College. Okay, so what is the Bible? The word Bible comes from the Greek word called Biblia, meaning the books. It is the collection of ancient books which was inspired by God Yahweh. The Bible includes 66 writings of the different authors. The word Bible stands for basic instruction before leaving earth. So this phrase is for a common theology teaching. Okay. The Bible is divided into two testaments. So the word testament means agreement, not the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Agreement and the New Agreement. So the Bible introduction has two parts. So the first part is the Old Testament books, and the second part is the New Testament book. So part 1 and part 2. So we are into part 1. So part 1 as the Old Testament books. Okay, we continue. So the Old Testament and the New Testament, there are 39 Old Testament books which were written in Hebrew. So the Old Testament has 39 books which were written in Hebrew, and the New Testament has 27 books which were written in Greek. And then beside the 66 books, there is 7 extra books which are in the Old Testament, written in Greek and in Aramaic. So the Bible has 66 books, and there are 7 hidden books which are not included in the 66. So if you as a theologian want to include the 7, then it is 66 books plus the 7 hidden books. The Bible was written by many different authors. Mostly were the Hebrews, and some they are not known. It was written over about 1,000 years, from about 900 AD to 100 AD, in Palestine, in Babylon, in Egypt, in Rome, and in Corinth. The purposes to writing was to teach religious and patriotism, to describe the Messiah. The Bible was written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. So inside the Bible, their people were prominent. Most of them were the Israelites and the Babylonians. So I will explain as we are going in detail a little bit about who are the Samaritans. Okay, so the Samaritans are the inhabitants of the district of Samaria. They were considered lower than the pagans. Then the Pharisees is a group of the Jews who were the Palestinians, who separated themselves from the ordinary Jewish in order to excel other in observances of religion, especially in the exact observances of the law. So the Pharisees means the separated ones, separated from the rest of the Jews because they allowed themselves to be influenced by Hellenism. So Hellenism is a Greco-Roman culture. Then the Sadducees. The Sadducees is a group of the upper class, rich and noble Jews who tried to be modern and up to date by encouraging the customs of the Greeks. They claim to be descendants from the priestly family of Zadok. Okay, so the Old Testament. Let's go to the Old Testament. Old Testament, 46 books in the Catholic Bible and 39 books in the Holy Bible. Meaning, there are 39 books in the Old Testament, and then there are 7 added books. They are called the Catholic Bible. It's called the Catholic Bible. So the 7 books are mostly practiced by the Catholic religion. So which means we have 46 Old Testament, the first 5 Torah, the law. These are sometimes called the Pentateuch, or the 5 books of Moses, or the Mosaic books. Let me explain. The Bible begins from Genesis. Then there's Exodus, then there's Leviticus, then there's Numbers, and then there's Deuteronomy. So these are the 5 books of the Old Testament, the first 5 books. So the first 5 books can be described as the Torah. If you don't feel like calling them Torah, you can call them the books of law, or you can call them the Pentateuch, or you can call them the 5 books of Moses, or you can call them the Mosaic books. Okay, so these books 5, they were written by Moses. So Genesis has 50 chapters, Exodus has 40 chapters, Leviticus has 27 chapters, Numbers has 36 chapters, Deuteronomy has 34 chapters. Then from the 5th book of Moses, after the 5 books of Moses, the first book is called Joshua. But Joshua begins in the historical books. So the first one is Joshua, the second one is Judges, the third one is Ruth, the 4th one is 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings. Okay, so in theology studies, there are first 5 books of Moses, and then also there are 12 books which are called historical. So these historical books starts from Joshua and it ends with Esther. So there are 12. So the first one is Joshua, second one is Judges, Ruth, Samuel, Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. So they are 12 books, historical books. The Pentateuch are 5, the historical books are 12. So in the historical book, there are 12 books in this part of the Old Testament. These books were composed at different time, places, but have different arrangements in the sequence that tells the story of God's people from the occupations of Canaan through the rise and the fall of northern and the southern kingdoms, and the return and the rebuilding of Jerusalem in Persian period. So there are 12. Joshua has 24 chapters, Judges has 21, Ruth has 4, Samuel first has 31 and second has 24, first and second Kings, first has 22, second has 25. First Chronicles has 29, second has 36. Ezra has 10, Nehemiah has 13, Esther has 16. So Esther is the only book, no mention of God in the Hebrew text of the entire work. So in Esther, there's no mention, the only book that has no mention of God. Okay, so from there we have the Catholic books. Amongst the 7 books of Catholic, the historical books which are in the Catholic Bible, there's Tobit, there's Judith, there's 1st and 2nd Maccabees. So Tobit has 14 chapters, Judith has 16 chapters, 1st Maccabees has 16, and then 2nd Maccabees has 15. Okay, so these are the 4 amongst the 7 hidden books, but they are separated because they are called the historical books. Okay, so from there we have the poet books or the wisdom books. They are considered to be a transition from the historical books, 1 Samuel through Esther, to the prophetic books of the major prophets Isaiah and Daniel. We'll explain later, you understand it later. So the first one is Job, second is Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. So these are 5 books. So for you to have an understanding about the Bible introduction, the first books there are 5, the second books there are 12, and then the third books are 5 again. So it is 5, 12, 5. So Job, there are 42 chapters. Psalms 150 chapters. Proverbs has 31 chapters. Ecclesiastes has 12 chapters. Song of Solomon has 8 chapters. Okay. We rush to the major prophets. So the major prophets are 5 or so. So the major prophets are described as the major because their books are longer and the content are broad, even global implication. So it is the volume that makes them major, not because they are bigger than the minor prophet. It's because of the content and the volume of their writings. So there are 5. The first one is Isaiah, which has 66 chapters. Jeremiah has 52 chapters. Lamentation has 5 chapters. Ezekiel has 48 chapters. Daniel has 14 chapters. Then we rush to minor prophets. So the minor prophets are described as minor because their books are shorter, although Hosea and Zechariah are almost as long as the book of Daniel, and the content is more narrow focused. That does not mean minors are of less inspiration than major. It is simply a matter of God choosing to reveal more to the major prophets than he did to the minor prophets. So major prophets, they are 5, and then the minor prophets are also 12. The top one is Hosea, who has 14 chapters. Joel 3 chapters. Amos 9 chapters. Obadiah has 1 chapter. Jonah has 4 chapters. Micah has 7 chapters. Nahum has 3 chapters. Habakkuk has 3 chapters. Zephaniah has 3 chapters. Haggai has 2 chapters. Zechariah has 14 chapters, and Malachi has 9 chapters. So that's the end of the Old Testament books. But in the Catholic books, remember, we have other books, the 7 books of the Eden books, which are called the Apocrypha. Now, we had mentioned on the other, which are historical books, although they are repeated also here for your understanding. So the following are included in the Catholic and the Orthodox Bible, and they call them Deuterocanonicals books. Deuterocanonicals books. The Protestants omit this section and called it the Apocrypha books. So the Apocrypha books are the 7 hidden books of the Old Testament. The first one is Tobit, the second one is Judith, the third one is Wisdom of Solomon, the other one is Sirach Ecclesiasticus, the other one is Baruch, the other one is First Maccabees, and the second Maccabees. So on the historical books we have them on top there, but on the wisdom books we have this one which is called Wisdom of Solomon. I think this is where we are now. So part 2 is the New Testament,